When it comes to this situation about like there's not enough black men and stuff like that, there are quality black men, but it's like we fighting through the mud. We're digging our ways out of the mud and stuff like that because our system, because our communities are so broken, we're behind the curve. Like we don't have mentors like we need. There's no father figures in our home, so like there's a lot of stuff we out here learning on our own.
By trial and error.
By trial and error, you know what I'm saying? And honestly, we're not all the way qualified to lead a home yet. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't mean we can't. We just need to learn. And the thing is if our women don't help us get back in position, then this housing cycle gonna be broken. So Samantha taking a chance with me by the grace of the Father, put me in position and helped me grow it and get to the point where I'm leading the home effectively, and I have 2 beautiful boys I'm raising. So because I'm raising these boys, they are growing up with aspects that I didn't fully have.
This video is actually a video not in response, but something that made me think that I thought would be a good conversation to have with Nate. So recently I was on social media and there was an account that I came across, and I really enjoy all of her videos. She talks a lot about biblical womanhood, homemaking, especially for women of color. And on one of her videos, she was responding to a comment on one of her other videos on her channel, and essentially what the comment was saying was like, all of this is good. Biblical womanhood, homemaking, being a housewife, like all of that sounds good, but there's a shortage of black men. And so what do you do if you have a desire to be a biblical woman and to be a homemaker and to be a housewife, but there's no black men to do that for? And I've heard that like response or question before, but I think what more so sparked my desire to have this conversation with Nate was more so the YouTuber's response, right? So essentially what she was saying in response to that is, she used an analogy, and in the analogy she was saying, if you go to the store, you're looking for toilet tissue, you're looking for a specific brand, if they don't have that brand, what do you do? Do you just go home without the toilet tissue, or do you get another brand of toilet tissue, right? Like, you still have a need that needs to be met. And so instead of walking away with nothing, look outside of whatever brand it is that you had anticipated buying from. So essentially what she was saying is if you're looking for a black man and there's a shortage of them, quote unquote, right? Then look outside. Like, there's nothing wrong with looking outside of the black race to find a good man. So obviously, like, there's an aspect of that like I agree with, right? Like, I'm not a type of person that feels as though you can only marry within your race. And that's like my personal opinion. Now, of course, I believe the person should be in Christ. There's a standard that you should have when you are considering being in a relationship with someone. But do I believe that, like, for me, it has to be a black man? Like, did I have to marry a black man? I know people will disagree with this, and that's okay. But no, I did not, right? Now, he ended up being black, and that's great. Beautiful. Praise God. I love it, right? But would I have married outside of my race? I would have, right? So just disclaimer on that end. But there was an aspect to what she was saying that I disagreed with. And that's more so like what I want to have the conversation about. So I kind of like shared that. So Nate didn't know what this video was going to be about. I'm kind of throwing him out there. Do you want to start off? Or do you want me to start off with just like why I disagreed with that? Or you can share your thoughts on that first.
No, you can start.
Okay.
It's up to you. If you want me to start, I can. But, you know, I'll go.
I know
that's
you
one
will.
of my sweet spots.
I
right
know
there.
you will. Okay. So these were my thoughts. This is why I disagreed with what she said. Now, I'm not talking about being in a relationship with a man that's at home playing a video game all day.
Can I say something?
Okay.
All right, so, because don't worry, I'm not going to start going. Just so y'all know, I want y'all to get an idea of where I'm going to go from before she shares hers. But in so many words, we need y'all, right? The lie that's been put out there as far as like black men not needing their black women and different things like that, that's something I've never agreed with, right? So I want y'all to know, just off rip, break the lie that we don't need y'all, because black men do need you. All right, and I'll explain more later, but I just wanted to put that out there so y'all can kind of start to get your mind ready for when I share my aspect of it. Because like I was telling her, that's one of my sweet spots. It's one of my pressure points when it comes to our community.
Yeah.
Like this division between the men and women, especially with how it was designed, if that makes sense.
So I guess my thoughts on why I disagree with what she said. What I was saying was, like, I'm not talking about a man that's at home in his boxes all day playing the video game, doesn't want to go out and get a job, is just eating cereal, is basically just chumping off of you, right? Doesn't want to intentionally contribute to the relationship. That's not what I'm talking about, right? But I do believe that there are men within the Black community, so we're specifically talking to the Black community in this video, right? I do believe that there are men within the Black community that I think sometimes as Black women, we are looking for a man of a certain status, right? So we may say like, okay, I want him to be in God, but he needs to have this kind of job, he needs to have this kind of car, he needs to have this kind of credit, right? Like he has to have all of these things for me to even consider him. And I've heard that from several women, like even women that I talk to this day. You know, the reason that a lot of women are no longer wanting to deal with the Black man is because they feel as though the Black man is not bringing anything to the table, right? And most of the time when they're talking about bringing things to the table, they're not talking about a man, you know, just a man of faith. They're not talking about you know, a man that is willing to provide and protect and cover his family, that can lead his family. They're more so talking about those monetary things, right? And so the reason I disagreed with that is because I believe that there are good Black men out here. And I believe that they're good. And a lot of it depends on like, what is your standard? Like what standard are you looking for a man by, right? So I've met men, my husband being one of them, and we'll share our personal story in a second, right? And how that fits into this topic or in this video. But I've met men that have a lot of other qualities, right? So they may not have the monetary stuff that women are looking for. But for example, in our relationship, he was a man of faith. He was a man of God. He had a strong relationship with the Lord. You could tell he was a natural leader. He had the desire to protect and to provide and to cover. He had that natural ability to be able to lead me, which I knew in return he could lead our children. He had all of these great qualities and attributes. But when we met, okay, Nate didn't have a car. Did you even have your license yet? Nate did not have his license yet, right? And I'm not being funny when I share this, but I'm gonna get somewhere with this, right? Didn't have his license yet. We were in college. What else? Did you have a job? He didn't have a job because there were certain things as far as his record that made it difficult for him to obtain a job, right? What?
I did have a job.
You did not have a job when we met.
When we met, I had a job. I didn't have a job long, but...
Where was you working?
That's when I was a janitor.
Oh, okay. So that's even perfect. He had a job, but he was a janitor.
Excuse
right?
me, I was a cleaning technician.
He was a cleaning.
I was a cleaning technician.
He was a cleaning, baby. You better.
I was a highly qualified vacuum operator.
I know that's right.
I had the backpack vacuum.
Listen, everybody don't get the backpack vacuum. Okay, that's quality. My bad, y'all. This video is a hot mess. This was not planned. So, anyways, share all that to say, which I'm glad you shared that, right? A woman that would look at a man like that would say, oh no, that's not good enough for me. He ain't got no license. He's a cleaning technician, okay? And I think at that time you had just come out of homelessness, I think. And so he was still homeless, right? So even the more, right? I feel like women will look at that and just be like, ew, like no, I'm not dating someone like that.
You buster, you
though he had all the other qualities, he just was not where most women would have wanted him to be as far as money and status is concerned, right? But I took a chance. Right? And this is
if
why.
the Most High had not...
The Lord has softened my heart. But, okay, so I did not take a chance because of those things, though. Okay. Let me clarify. So, if y'all heard our story, like when we first met, I was not feeling Nate. But it had nothing to do with those things. I didn't even know half of that stuff, honestly. Like, those things came out over time of us being friends. But I didn't know that stuff in the beginning, right? But even then, I saw potential in him. Like, truly, I saw potential in him. I knew the potential that he had. I just knew that there were a lot of barriers around him that prevented him from operating in that full potential, right? And at this point, I knew nothing about being a biblical woman. I knew nothing about being a helper. I didn't know anything about that stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna finish wrapping up my part. Sorry.
It's gonna be a lot of chopping.
It's gonna be a lot of chopping and editing, okay?
Stay tuned at the end for the bloopers so you can see what was going on.
Right. But my point is, he had potential. He had potential. And I think a lot of times when we are looking at a relationship, we're looking at where the person is now and not what they have the potential to be. And again, I'm not saying not to have standards. I'm not saying to be out here just dating anybody or courting anybody and someone that is not putting in any effort or shows you that they have potential. But I'm talking about when you see a man that has everything, but maybe he does not have the status or the money or whatever other natural things that you're looking for, right? I feel like as women of color and women in our community, we will sometimes overlook them or not give them a chance because of those things. So I'm gonna pause right there. I could share more, but I'm gonna let Nate share his thoughts real quick.
This is why I say, this is my pet peeve with that division on that aspect, right? And this is why I say, like, the reality is we need our women, right? So by design, there are these visible shackles and chains placed on the men in our communities, right? There are these glass ceilings that exist that because we're getting more and more comfortable and we get these little trinkets here and there, it's almost like people forget that we still have certain barriers that we're dealing with, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of individuals who are overlooked, discredited, and all this other stuff because what happens is, like Samantha said, there's all these barriers, and if you're not careful, you start to look at this individual like he ain't trying to do nothing, right? So,
which I did at a point, look at Nate like that. I can show that.
So you look at them like they're not trying to do nothing, but you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, right? So for example, so in my situation, it was hard for me to find a job. And not like, it ain't the fact that I don't want to work. I love to work, you know what I'm saying? I like to, like, I'm just a hands-on type of individual. I like physical labor type of work, right? My favorite jobs was when I was like paving roads and stuff like that, right? I just like to feel like a man when I'm doing my work, stuff like that, right? But I was trying to find these jobs, and I remember I went to this open hiring fest, or I forgot what they called it, like, where you just walk in and they do open interviews. And I remember I talked to this manager, and he was a black manager from our community, and he pulled me to the side after the interview. He said, let me ask you a question. He said, I'm not gonna get your hopes up. He said, unfortunately, I'm just gonna let you know up front, like, because you have record, I can't hire you. And I was like, dang. But he was like, but let me ask you a question. He said, is it hard for you to find employment? And granted, I know laws have changed now. This was like, you're talking about almost a decade ago at this point, right? But I was like, yeah. He was like, well, let me explain to you why. He's like, because Y and Z is on your record. If for a company to hire you, if they don't have like a tax incentive or something like that, whatever type of insurance they had, their insurance rate would go up because of me being an employee was like a risk for them or something like that. It was like, so the average company, if they have a pool of applicants, they're not going to hire you because they actually got to pay more. Like it's going to cost them to bring you on board when they can pick someone else who doesn't, right? And so situations like that, like he shared that with me, and I was appreciative because it opened up my eyes to let me understand a little bit more why. It seemed like I wasn't getting like certain types of jobs and different things like that. Because a lot of the jobs I did was either just like under the table type of work, like contracting type of work, or like just very labor intensive jobs like landscaping and yardscaping and stuff like that. So outside of that, it's just, that just created barriers for me, right? It created challenges, and it created a glass ceiling, right? So it ain't the fact that I didn't want to do anything. And as much as people believe that, because there's a lot of people that try to argue, like, we're just not getting out there trying. That's not true. I was trying. Like, I tried so hard, it got to the point where I gave up. Because I got tired of going, like, I'm telling you, shirt, suit, and tie, sweating, going to go to an interview at a little chain grocery store because I'm trying to offset that paper that they're gonna look at it, and when it comes to like record and stuff like that, like basic level jobs, like no disrespect, you know what I'm saying, but like entry level jobs, I'm like super dressing up like you think I'm trying to apply to a corporate position, right? And it's like it's still not doing nothing. So I'm like, man, whatever, you know what I mean? And then even when it came time to go to school, I couldn't get in college. The one who did give me a chance was A&T. Shout out to A&T, right? But there was still stipulations with that because I didn't have nowhere to stay. So I had to live on campus, right? But because of my background, like even that was up in the air because of campus security, and they didn't know if it would be like a security threat to put on campus, right? So we had those barriers, but the Most High, he showed his grace through every time, and I was able to live on campus. So that solved some issues for me because now it's like, if I wasn't working, it was okay because I was carrying out I'm telling all my business now. Like I was carrying my refund checks to live off of. I had my meal plan, so I was able to eat, and I I was able to start to put myself in a position where the resources that I was lacking previously was now here while I was on this campus, right? So now that I had access to these resources that I otherwise didn't have access to, or I had a certain level of operation, I was able to really focus on doing the work that I needed to start to repair me, right? So I had to reframe my brain to see the value that I held as a man, and not just a man, but as a black man, right? So I was in a season where I had to restore my mind and step back into the reality of who I was and the validity of my masculinity and my manhood, because for several years I had been waging war or warring against a system that I wasn't even trying to fight, right? Like I had been trying to overcome different obstacles and odds and all these different things just by the design and just the nature of the beast, right? So it's like I had these invisible ceilings, these invisible barriers, and it just looked like nothing was happening, right? So I all praise to the Most High for opening the door for me to get into college, because that allowed me to get into an environment that shifted my mindset that was different from the environments I was used to, right? So I share all of that to give some type of insight, because if you look at my accolades and everything I've done now, right, you wouldn't know that, right? I have 3 degrees. I have a professional certificate, which is like another degree. It's like an in-between bachelor's and master's, right? I'm currently getting another certificate so to meet the prerequisites so I can get into this doctorate program I'm looking at, right? And like I've operated in so many different leadership positions and just had a lot of opportunities, right? So if you were just looking at the track record of success professionally and academically at this point in my life, you wouldn't know where I started, right? But the whole aspect is, I'm sharing that because I'm not the only individual that's experienced that, specifically in our community. And when I'm talking about our community, it's not because I don't care about other communities. It's just the reality of like that this is something, like I did my thesis in this area, right? So like the data and the research and everything and piecing together all the puzzles that's been disconnected so people can't see what's happening, like I'm looking at it like that, right? And so it's like this aspect is, it plagues our community, right? And there's this lie from feminism that imposed a bunch of stuff into our communities that was not relevant for our community, that has set the man against the woman and broken our structure, right? So the man has been bound with invisible shackles, right? And then those shackles have been used to hold him in a certain position, and the woman has been reconditioned in her mind to look at the position he's stuck in with a negative taste and as unappealing and unattractive. And then there's been this division that's been established as far as dividing the man against the woman and making the woman feel as though she doesn't need to support or try to help him get out of that position, right? And that's something I don't agree with. I'm not saying, like Samantha said, I'm not talking about if you got somebody that you know are not, they're not trying to do nothing, like they gotta want to help themselves, right? But it's evident when you encounter a man that's trying to do something with himself. It's evident, right? But in our communities, because of how the man has been stripped of his masculinity and his manhood and his ability to lead and do what he's supposed to do in the home and the community, it's up to the woman to restore that, right? And the reason why the woman is in a position to restore that is, and this is why I started talking about the lies of feminism. Like I've looked into the statistics and everything, and a lot of stuff from the very onset of when they try to project this stuff into our community, right? It's not true, right? The problems that they're projecting onto our women were not true for our women, right? And I'm going to stand on that to the fullest, because the literature is out there, the research is out there. That just, even just talking to the old heads, because data and stuff can be skewed too, right? Like just listen to the elders and have these conversations. You know what I'm saying? The moment feminism attached itself to the civil rights movement, our community started a rapid decline. They started breaking. The home started dividing, and everything we had that was needed, that we were using, that was building our communities and making us strong, collapsed, right? They were telling our women that they should fight for the right to vote. But you know how crazy that sounds? Like look, if you know historically, and I hope I'm not rambling, but like historically, they were telling black women that they should fight, they needed to fight for the right to vote. And the funny thing is during the civil rights movement, one of the main things that we were fighting for as a people was just the right to vote, both man and woman. So they were telling the woman basically to think about yourself, right? Because the feminists who attached themselves to our movement, their problems were different too. There were different problems than our community's problems. They were fighting for the right to go out and work. Our women were working. We were slaves together.
Was working.
The daddy was working, the mama was working, the kids was working. They were slaves. And after slavery, those who knew that they were set free were sharecropping and getting robbed while they were sharecropping. And then when they transitioned, you start making a little bit of progress. Now we start building and getting our own schools and our churches and stuff together, right? So now the children are going to school, right? And the man and the woman still working. Now, if she didn't have to work, she would do what she needed to with the home. But it was a lot of our situation. Look, where was Rosa Parks on the way home from? You get what I'm saying? So it's like, you got so many stories about our women working because we needed to, we had to, right? But then feminism comes along and says that you should fight for this right, but they already had it, right? And it ain't because in our community they wanted it, it's just we had no other choice, right? So it's like there's basic stuff that they impose on us, and it's like, this is a problem that you need to fix because you're not, but it's like, man, the level of respect and everything was so different. And so it's like, all of that was done by design because it creates this independent mindset when the Bible itself says that men and women are not independent of one another, right? So the statistics in our community as far as like women being paid less than men, right? Like being less educated and different things like that, that stuff is not true for our community. That is not true for the black community. So we got to break that lie. Women are often more educated. Women are often better employed, right? I remember in high school, women could get hired, quit a job, and have another job the next day. A brother, he get a job. If you lose that job, it's going to be 6 months before he get another opportunity for anything. You know what I'm saying? So in our community, women often go to school more. There are higher rates of graduation from high school, right? There are higher rates of graduation from universities with a bachelor or upper level degree, right? They offer our preferred for a higher level employment because they are a double diversity, right? They're a double minority because they're a woman and they are of so-called black or so-called minority, right? So it's like, oh, if I gotta choose between a black man and a black woman, I'm gonna pick this black woman because that's 2 diversity check boxes, right? I get all types of grant funding and everything, right? So you got that aspect going for you. So it's like there's just a lot of lies that have been put off in our community. And then our women have picked that up and started having this animosity towards men. And it's like, now you're perpetuating the cycle. We've been stripped from our position. We've been emasculated, and you've been empowered and supported to be our enemy when we don't need you to be our enemy. You know what I'm saying? It's been incentivized for you to detach yourself from us. Certain assistance and different things like that is less for you when a man is present, right? And you can go check the numbers on that. But I'm saying all that to say, I'm not the only individual that's like that. This is what plagues our community. And the reality is, it's like, I couldn't get on the lease when we first got our home. You know what I'm saying? When we first got our home, he was not on our lease. He could not. My name was on that lease. My credit wasn't bad, but I had no history credit, so I couldn't buy a car or nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? Because I couldn't get a job I was just surviving. You know what I'm saying? So I wasn't even able to get into a position where I could start to build and start to even think about other stuff that other people were thinking about, right? So it's like, you got all of these different aspects, and like, me being a student actually helped me get a job. Like some of the most stable, because I was student employment. The professors and the advisors that were aware of my situation and my background and my history, and they saw like my efforts to try to improve myself, they were helping me opening up the doors for opportunities to help me do like assistantships and stuff like that. And that started helping me actually get like a resume that opened up the door for me to apply different places. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I love A&T, and just the fact that I was at a HBCU, because there was so much support, right? Because they understood the background, and like, and I'll say this and I'll be quiet, because I remember I took a class at a PWI, and one of the, I had reached out, I was like, hey, look, I got all this stuff going on. And then the professor told me I felt like I was entitled to special treatment. And I looked, I had to go have a meeting and converse with this lady and just say, I don't feel like I'm entitled to special treatment. I said, how is me communicating that I'm having challenges personally coming off like I'm expecting better treatment? Like, I own a moped. Like, I'm trying to shoot, like, your class is like 10 minutes after a class I finished at A&T, right? So I'm trying to shoot over here in between classes, find someone to park my little moped and make it to class, right? Then on top of that, we have different schedules and stuff like that. So like, I'm not trying to get special treatment. I'm just trying to let you be aware of what I'm dealing with while I'm making progress in your class, so you're not looking at me like I'm just up to no good, right? And stuff like that. But the level of support at the HBCU was different, and they were actually trying to help me position myself to be somebody great, because they saw my potential. So when it comes to this situation about like there's not enough black men and stuff like that, there are quality black men, but it's like we fighting through the mud. We're digging our ways out of the mud and stuff like that because our system, because our communities are so broken, we're behind the curve. Like we don't have mentors like we need. There's no father figures in the home, so like there's a lot of stuff we out here learning on our own.
By trial and error.
By trial and error, you know what I'm saying? And honestly, we're not all the way qualified to lead a home yet. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't mean we can't. We just need to learn. And the thing is if our women don't help us get back in position, then this house cycle gonna be broken. So Samantha taking a chance with me by the grace of the Father put me in position and helped me grow it and get to the point where I'm leading the home effectively, and I have 2 beautiful boys I'm raising. So because I'm raising these boys, they are growing up with aspects that I didn't fully have. So like their disposition and their outlook on life is completely different, right? But we can't talk about these cycles that we see if we're not willing to do what needs to be done to fix it.
Yeah.
And this is the last thing I'll say because I know I've been going on, but like I'm passing it back to Samantha. But and this one thing that separates our generation from the generation of our elders. When they were like, oh, why did you stick around so long? Why did you endure this? Like they had endurance, they had long suffering, right? They'd be like, oh, why did you stay in this marriage? And even if they weren't unhappy, I'm not saying put yourself in a position where you're gonna be unhappy, but they all say the same thing. I did it for the children, right? I'm pretty sure the children, because I know some of y'all would tear up the comments, and like I'm not saying, man, don't put words in my mouth. All I'm saying is the focus is they had a different level of endurance, and they were willing to sacrifice their own interests for the interests of the community, the interests of the generation behind them. That's why you see them. The civil rights movement. That's why they were out there getting sprayed in the face with fire hoses, getting beat. That's why they're out there facing death to protest and march to get advances for our basic human rights. That's why they were getting eaten by dogs and murdered by police officers and different things. Like all of this stuff, when they were doing that stuff, yeah, they were thinking about their quality of life, but they had you in mind, right? But somewhere along the line, we lost that, and people aren't willing to make that sacrifice.
Yeah.
We just want to live for ourselves, and we're not willing to make that sacrifice. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, but no one else is gonna fix our communities but us. So it ain't the fact that there ain't enough men. I mean, but if there ain't enough men, you gotta ask yourself, why not? Where are they? And why are they there?
Exactly. Yeah.
Why are they there? Right? It's just as simple as that. Why are they there? And then outside of that, you know what I'm saying? Y'all talk about this need that need to be met. You don't have to be a wife to do all that homemaking and stuff. Like that's the thing. Like a lot of our sisters, they feel like they have to be in a relationship to restore that. You don't. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we just need good sisters. Like brothers is hurting. Just like a sister need a solid man that could be a brother without no ulterior motives or intentions to help her heal. You know what I'm saying? And receive what she didn't get from a big brother or a father or something like that. Man, there's brothers out here who need that support from a woman too. That's just genuine, right? So you got a lot of sisters to speak life into us and not tear us down and encourage us along our journey. You know what I'm saying? Like it does a lot. But like I said, that's one of my sweet spots. We black men in our community, we need our women to support us. And you gotta ask yourself, what is it about you supporting your man, the men in your community, is so dangerous that it's strategically targeted? Like why is your mindset towards the men in your community so targeted and influenced to see us more negative than positive? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I'm gonna tuck that soapbox away and put it up in my pocket.
So again, like we want to reiterate that we're not saying to just go out here and just be with anybody. That's not what we're saying, right? But what we are saying is look at other things besides the status of that man, because like Nate said, there are a lot of things that he did not have when we came together, but looking at the man that he is now versus who he was in the beginning, it's two totally different people, right? So we're talking about a man with a bachelor's and 2 masters that's working towards a doctoral degree right now, that has certificates under his belt. So the bottom line is that I took a chance, you know, and again, I'm not against being outside of the community, but I saw potential in this black man that was right here. And I think that a lot of our homes can be restored, a lot of our communities can be restored if we as women will get to the place where we can say, like he was saying, I'm willing to help. I'm willing to help be a solution to the problem. I'm not going to continue to perpetuate the cycle of effeminizing our men, of emasculating our men. The solution isn't, oh, well, he's not a leader, so let me step up and lead. Like, that's not the solution to the problem, right? Because like he said, a lot of men, they haven't been taught to lead, but they have the ability on the inside of them. And what they need is the support. What they need is encouragement. What they need is our prayers. What they need is, our time of sacrifice and fasting for them. Like, as women, especially if we see the issue within our homes and within our communities, and we see, the different systematic oppressions that are there, like, how many of us can legitimately say that we pray for our men, right? That we truly pray for restoration in our community. And again, this is no shot to any other communities at all, but we just recognize that our community is broken. And that's also a place that we feel very called to as it pertains to bringing the gospel and bringing restoration through Christ is the community, the Black community, right? And so the point of this video is to say, if we see an issue, the solution isn't always to walk away. The solution is not to walk away. Sometimes you literally have the answer to fix the problem. Like, you have the answer to the question. You have the solution to the problem. It's just up to you to say that I'm willing to be part of that solution.
Just kind of one thing that, because I know a lot of women might ask, like, well, so if he's not an effective leader, how do I trust his leadership, or different things like that? There's ways you can support someone's leadership without overstepping their leadership. For example, so like it's even within like military and different things like that, the way that is done is, if you have a leader who may not be the best leader, there's a way you can tactfully ask a question. But you know what I'm saying? Because like, you don't want to step, like, it's almost, just do some research on peer leadership and stuff like that, right? There's a way you can ask a question that causes them to better think through, you know what I'm saying? Or there's ways you can not tell or give a directive as far as like, this what we need to be doing, or what, like, you can present options, you know what I'm saying, that may be better as questions. That way they get into the habit of thinking. You know what I'm saying? Because like a lot of critical thinking skills have been lost over time, especially with like transitions in education and stuff like that. So just like understand the potential is there. Like, we got some businessmen that's locked up because they built some bomb businesses, but it was illegal. You know what I'm saying? So they had the business mindset though, which is the wrong business. And even outside of business mindset, just be intelligent individuals, you know? Yeah. Sometimes it's just the reframing and understanding that, and understanding like we just got to retrain our brains to think properly, because we've been so indoctrinated and inundated with all of the wrong stuff. So hopefully all this made sense. I feel like I'm trying to just make sure there's nothing else that I can think of. Yeah, we need y'all. They do, and we need them. We need them. Like, we need restoration. We need our communities to be whole. And it's not whole when one aspect is missing, one part of the puzzle is missing, right? And we say the same thing in the body of Christ, right? We need the arm, we need the leg, we need our brothers and sisters in Christ. And yet when it comes to the home, when it comes to the need and the bond of a man and a woman, all of a sudden it's oppressive. And you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, it's interesting. We accept certain concepts when it comes to on our job, when it comes to the body of Christ, when it comes to the church. But when we take those same concepts and we apply them to the home, we apply them in the marriage, we apply them to a relationship between a man and a woman, it's not the same. There's not the same level of respect for it. If you need your brother and sister in Christ in the body of Christ, understand that the same thing. We need our men, and our men need us as women in order to make this puzzle whole, or to make our communities whole. Yeah, unlearn the lies. Those lies of feminism. I know there's some sisters who will still die hard defend, but I challenge you, just go do your research. Like, and that's the thing, do the research, y'all. And when I say do the research, don't just look it up. Like, that's the thing about data. You can put all the information together and it makes it seem like it's not specific. But when you start to break that data down to demographic, it's a different picture. You know what I'm saying? So for example, they could say 25% of women in this country X, Y, and Z. When you break it down by specific demographic, it might jump to 50% of that specific demographic, right? When you do the research, look at it specifically for our community. You can't just look at it general, because the general numbers is gonna make it seem like it's, you know what I'm saying? It's gonna make it say something differently, because in this nation we still are a minority in number. You You get what I'm saying? So break it down and look at these statistics specifically for our community. Employment and like gender employment disparities in the Black American community. You know what I'm saying? Education disparities, like look at it specifically for our stuff and go and everything that feminism has taught you is true.
Let us know your thoughts in the comments.
Like, subscribe, share.
Like, subscribe, share. Alright, let us know if y'all want to see more videos like this.
Yeah, we healing. We bringing healing and restoration.
Wait.